I had heard about carnivore before that. I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do this for 90 days. And when it fails, because I'm convinced it is, I'm going to make a video and I'm going to blow the roof off this thing. And I'm going to make $1 million. If you're under the impression that sugar is not a drug, you really are mistaken. I didn't do this to lose weight. Not that it's a great way to lose weight. I lost a ton of weight on it. But I did this to live.
Hello and welcome. Kerry here from Healing Humanity, the power of a proper human diet. And today I'm thankful, grateful, blessed to welcome Eben to the channel. Welcome, Eben. How are you doing?
Very good, Kerry. How are you today?
I'm doing wonderful. I am looking forward to hearing your story. Maybe if we could start out, could you tell me a little bit maybe about your life before you found carnivore?
Okay. So after getting married and kind of settling into life, raising kids and stuff, I started to put on weight. My activity level kind of fell off, and I was spending more time at home and just kind of relaxing with the family, doing the watching movies and watching TV kind of thing. At my heaviest, I got up to 275 pounds. I found out shortly after, well, I guess at about 37 years old, I found out I was diabetic. I'm 49 now. I went to take my niece to summer school. I was given a ride to summer school that day, and I started to notice some psychological issues. When I was trying to complete a sentence, I would start to cry. And I'm not really a big crier, so that was a little spooky for me. And days prior, I was actually urinating quite frequently, to the tune of 20 or 30 times a day. That was the weight gain. The 275 pounds wasn't really a problem at that point because I was young enough that it wasn't really affecting me as far as mobility. I could still do what I needed to do. But that's really where the roller coaster began. I spent the next 2 years doing my own variation of like Atkins. Knowing what I know today, it almost sounds hilarious, but low fat, low to zero carbs, calorie restricting. I mean, I was making all the classic mistakes, not knowing. But back then, I don't even think carnivore was a thing, but not knowing anything about high fat and reducing your carbs. So 2 years of working out and doing that diet, it was suffering. The whole time I was suffering. It was causing fights in my home. It was causing turbulence with my family because when you don't eliminate the carbs, you constantly want them. And the diet was solely, I have pretty strong willpower, but it was solely willpower, and my wife didn't have to do the diet because she was healthy for all intents and purposes. My kids, they would eat whatever I would eat, but they also, my wife liked to keep snacks in the house for them, which now I know is, not the best thing in the world. So it was always a constant battle between me not wanting to have to use my willpower to not eat these foods and my wife wanting to have variety in the house for the kids and stuff like that. So ultimately, I did that for like 2 years. I got to a healthy weight. I was going to the gym, but I was hungry all the time, and the cravings were incredible. The doctor gave me the go ahead that I had taken care of the diabetes. My blood sugar was normal. I was off medication, and as always, hunger won. And I went back to eating. At first it was just a little bit of popcorn here and there, and then it was Doritos and then ice cream, and all the things I had been wanting for 2 years. Now it was like I got the okay to eat them again. And ultimately skyrocketed back up to 275 pounds.
Quick interruption. Beast Mode Soap sent me this soap, 100% beef tallow, free to try. This is certified grass-fed tallow, never vegan, made in the USA, natural essential oils. We got forest ash, paleo pine. We're in the pine forest. The forest ash is my favorite. I've been using it for a while now. They sent this to me for free, but I liked it so much I agreed to do a paid partnership with them because I believe people need to know what they're putting on their body. And the soap that I had at home is full of chemicals, detergents. Seriously, after I use this soap, my skin feels so soft and so incredible. What you put on your skin ends up in your bloodstream. And I only want to put good things in my body and on my body. And this, there couldn't be much better. This is 100% beef tallow. Learn more at beastmodesoap.com.
The hard part about that for me is when I looked in the mirror, I never saw 275 pounds. I saw what you see now. There was a disconnect between me and the reflection in the mirror. So I gained the weight probably back within a year, if not less, and then spent the next 10 years obese. The whole time thinking I'd beaten diabetes, it's not a big deal, the whole 9 yards. I beat it before, so it's gone now, and I'm eating, worse and worse as days go on. So now, fast forward, I started my job 8 years ago. I work for the MTA, for New York City subways. About 30 days. At this point, I knew my blood sugar wasn't right. I'd been checking it. I knew it was climbing, but my eating was completely out of control. The medications weren't really doing it. I wasn't really staying on point with the medication. At this point, I tried everything the doctors were saying to try, and I would ultimately fail because honestly, hunger would always win. So it's a Monday morning. I'm getting in the shower. I work the overnight shift, and I'm getting in the shower and I'm washing. Now, I don't know how old your audience is, but this is a graphic part of my health details. I'm going to keep it as PG as I can, but it unfortunately it is what it is. So I'm showering and I go to wash my personal areas, and I find a boil on my scrotum. It's about that big. Initially, I thought it was cancer. I kind of freaked out. My stomach flipped. I got like a little nauseous. I was in a different relationship at the time. I called my girlfriend and I asked her to see if what it looked like, and she's the one that recognized it as a boil. And not really thinking about diabetes and thinking about how high my blood sugar was, and not really knowing that high blood sugar kind of shuts off your body's ability to care for itself. I was like, oh, it's a boil. That's no big deal. I just started my job. I just got my health benefits. I was there 3 months and I'm on probation for a year. So I'd rather not take any time off. So I was like, Saturday, I'm off from work. I'll go to the doctor. I'll get it taken care of then. That was Monday. By Wednesday, I knew I wasn't right, but I figured I made it this far, just a couple more days. Thursday was extremely painful. And I mentally, I just didn't feel like I was really at the top of my game. By the time Friday came around, I remember walking out to a job site with one of my coworkers and asking him to keep an eye on me. So I wasn't 100% sure I was going to make it through the night. Not die by the end of the night, but I wasn't sure I was going to pass out or fall over or just be able to function at a normal pace. So I made it through the shift somehow. The only thing I remember from that day is doing the work, getting out of work. I have to swipe a card to leave the job. I swiped the card. I remember leaving my quarters where we report. I don't remember walking to the car. I don't remember driving home. It's an hour and a half commute. And I don't remember walking into my house. The first memory I have after 6 a.m. when I swiped out is 7 p.m. I get out Saturday morning at 6. 7 p.m. Saturday afternoon. I'm being woken up on my couch, being told that they've been trying to wake me up for hours. And if I didn't get up and get in the car right now, they'll call an ambulance. So I get up begrudgingly, and I'm not happy about it. And I'm struggling every step of the way. Get in the car, go to the hospital. When the doctor does his inspection of the area. Now, mind you, there's a doctor, medical assistant, couple of nurses. There's people running in and out of the room, and I have to bear everything to anybody who's walking past. The doctor takes a look at the area, and he says, "Okay, um, a couple of things." He says, "Obviously, it's a boil. It's infected. Um, you need to go to surgery right now, and you're going to be on my table within 2 hours. You're not going home. If you don't do the surgery, this is going to be a very bad ending for you." And at that point, I was so broken. I was like, "Doc, just whatever it takes, just get me in there." He in the course of the conversation, he said, "Well, let me tell you what's going on. You have your heart rate is tachycardia. Your blood pressure has skyrocketed. You have a boil that's heavily infected. You have pink eye because remember I said the diabetes is not helping my body heal. Is not letting my body heal. And I had Fournier's gangrene on the same side as the boil.
Hmm.
So that was it. Into surgery I go. And the funny thing to me is like everybody's terrified of surgery. To me, the surgery was the best part of it. I they brought me into a room. They injected me with some type of medication. I went to sleep. I woke up and it was over. But the healing process for that boil was horrendous. It was a large boil. I don't know if it's different for smaller boils, but large boils, when they land them, they don't stitch them.
Hmm.
It has to be left open and it has to heal from the inside. It has to close on its own from the inside. So I was left with what was being described to me as a large hole in my scrotum, which you can imagine how much fun that is. That had to heal, and it took weeks, if not months, to completely heal. And my job is a dirty job. I work in very dirty areas, dirty surroundings, so I couldn't return back to work with an open wound, especially not in the area that it is. Um, and the treatment while you're in the hospital, mind you, because of the infection, I was septic. So when I woke up, I was in the critical care unit. I think I was one of 10 or 12 patients on the floor, and I was the only one who was conscious. The doctors who were treating me at the time, I guess they had me on all kinds of pain medication because I was taking everything very lightly. But they kept saying things to me like, "We can't believe you're not on a ventilator," not realizing to me that being on the ventilator means you're knocking on death's door. And that's all they kept saying is we're amazed that you're not on a ventilator at this point. And they kept saying the only thing we think that's saving you is your age. You're young enough. He said, everybody else on this floor is on a ventilator. Um, the way they treat the um, boils after they lance them is they have to pack them. Now, because of the size of the area and the fact that I was so heavy, I couldn't see the area. So I couldn't tell you for sure how big the hole was. But what I can tell you is, one, when they unpacked it, it was the most painful experience. I've broken bones. I've, been in car accidents. I've had a bunch of very painful experiences. And if the day before, if you asked me what like the level 10 pain was, after feeling the unpacking of that wound, I would say my old level 10 is a 2. The packing that they pulled out made a pile like this big. So like I said, I don't know how big the hole was, but it was excruciating, and the pain was so bad. I was clenching and screaming, and I thought my teeth were going to shatter from the response to the thing. So that was the first time. Um, I would love to tell you that I came out of that hospital room and I was completely had my mind set on getting healthy, and I never wanted to go through that again. And I focused on my health and did my research. But I came out of that hospital and I changed nothing. Went about my life just as I had before. Blood sugar out of control, eating anything and everything. My my eating habits are horrendous, and I'll go into more detail on that in a minute. But it was about a year had gone by at this point, beyond the surgery, and I had gotten another boil.
Mm.
So now I'm like, okay, this can't wait. I got enough time in my job. I can take a day without having to worry. I went right to my urologist, who I've been seeing on a regular basis now because they want to keep an eye on me. And same boil, same location, same size. Um, but he tells me, you got to go to the hospital. This isn't, you can't play the game like you did last time. You're only so lucky. So I went and had the second boil lanced. It was a lot less severe because I wasn't as sick. Um, they lanced the boil. I spent about a week in the hospital the first time. I spent about a week in the hospital this time, but I wasn't in critical care. I was in a regular hospital bed. Again, having a great time, not thinking anything. I come home and I go back to eating the same way. Only now I'm getting boils on a weekly basis, same area. So, but they're small. For the most part, they're small. Some are large, some are small. But I figured out that if I treated them with Epsom salt, like a bath, they disperse on their own. It would still be a mess. It would still be there was a lot of bleeding. There was draining. It was horrendous. But in my mind, if I could figure out a way to deal with it and tolerate it, then I can keep moving with my life. So I did that for about 3 years. Boils constantly. In the meantime, that relationship had ended, and I started a new relationship with the beautiful woman I'm with now. And now I don't know if you could imagine having to explain to your new relationship that, oh, by the way, I get these horrible growths that explode, and we got to stay clear of each other until it heals, because not only is it painful, it's disgusting. All these horrible things. So thankfully, she saw something in me and she stuck around and helped me with everything that I was going through. Um, but then, like, I guess what was it, April, somewhere around March, I would say. Um, Now, although I was heavy, although my um, diabetes was out of control, my blood sugar was crazy, my health issues were mounting. My blood pressure was always decent, 120 over 80. My heart rate was 70, 75 beats a minute, which isn't fantastic, but it's not anything to worry about. All of a sudden, these numbers started to change. Um, my my heart rate started to stick around 100. And that's sitting like I am now, not talking, not doing anything, just sitting still. I have a smartwatch that measures your heart rate. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, man, that's steadily higher than it's ever been. And God forbid I started walking or I did any type of work. Walking, it would go up to like 118 beats a minute. And that's only walking 20 steps. And if I did work, and my job is a very physical job, my heart rate would be 130, 135 beats a minute. And I started to, if I bent over, I would get lightheaded, I would get dizzy. Um, this was the turning point for me. Um, I, this is a hard one for me. I have to back up a few years so you understand why, with all the surgeries and with all the issues I had, that being thick-headed, I never did anything about it. Why this one um, made me hit my brakes. Uh, when I was 23 years old, my father came home from work. Um, he had power steering line in his car went, and it filled the car with smoke. And he drove the car home, whatever he did with the windows open, whatever. But when he came in the house, I was arguing with my sister, and I was 24, my sister was probably 30, and we're arguing back and forth like teenagers. And my father walks in, and we bring it to his attention, trying to get him to decide who's right in the argument. And he makes it clear to us that he's not doing well. So we stopped the argument, and he goes into the bathroom. Now, my father was a very old school type of person. He was raised by a nurse. So if you're not bleeding from your ears and your eyes, you do what you got to do, and you go through life. You know what I mean? You don't, when your mother's a nurse, you don't get to stay home because you have a bellyache. You got to be hemorrhaging from every orifice in your body. So that's how he was raised, and that's how he ran his life. He didn't take he was at his job 15 years. He never took a sick day. Like he did. That's just something he didn't do. Um, so he goes up to go in the bathroom, I guess, for whatever reason, and he calls down a couple minutes later and tells us to call an ambulance. Now you could imagine a guy who doesn't complain, doesn't stop, doesn't, and now he's saying, "Call me an ambulance." I'm in trouble. So we called the ambulance. We put him in the ambulance, and being a proud man, he didn't want us with him. He didn't want his kids to see him struggle, so he got in the ambulance by himself. I later went down to the hospital, and the doctors aren't allowed to tell you anything that um, the patient doesn't allow. So they didn't tell us much. What I know now is at that point, because after he passed away, the doctor could tell us he had a heart attack, a significant heart attack. There was damage to his heart. He had congestive heart failure, which I know you're familiar with. Um, and at that point, they gave him a year to live. Now, I'm sure in the idea of protecting us from um, being sad for him for the last year, and I'm sure a lot of it was pride. He didn't want to be treated like he was an invalid or like he was sick or anything like that. He didn't say a word. What he told me, and if this was the age of Google, I would have called BS on him. He told me that his heart did have damage, but the heart is capable of circulating in a different way. So it's just a matter of him getting used to the way his heart works now. Because he was struggling. I recognized that. He was having trouble walking upstairs. He couldn't catch his breath. They weren't letting him back to work. But every time I questioned it, he would give me the same answer. No, it takes a long time for your body to recover and to learn how to work with the way your heart works now. And I was 24, and I was, I bet I don't, at the time, I didn't even have a high school education. I got my GED later in life. So everybody bought it. And a year later, I'm leaving for work, and I hear him coughing. And he always had a significant cough. He was a smoker all his life, but it sounded different to me this time. And because of the congestive heart failure, he was coughing up a lot of like white phlegm, like the foam. So I stopped on my way out the door, and I was like, "Dad, you okay?" And I won't use the word, but uh, he we had a very buddy-like relationship. So we would curse at each other in jest. So he said to me, he said, "I'll live, you little D. Go to work." And I laughed because that's just the kind of humor we had. I laughed. I was like, "All right, Dad, I love you. I'm at work if you need anything." He said, "I love you too," and I went out the door. Um, as is most days that end horribly for you, it was a normal day. Um, this is where it's going to get tough for me. I apologize. The uh, the phone rang at work. My boss answered it and said it was for me, which is weird. I don't really let people call me at work. So it was my wife at the time, and apparently my father had a massive heart attack in front of her.
Hmm.
The way it really went down is he was watching my niece, my infant niece, and my two nephews. Um, he said he knew 3 days before, by the way, that they told him to get his affair in order. He didn't tell anybody. So he said to my wife, "Well, I finished my book. I did all the dishes. I ate my sandwich, and I played with my niece for the last time. I played with my granddaughter for the last time. I did everything I wanted to do today." And within a minute or two, he sneezed, and it was over. Um, I tell you that, it just occurred to me that my father um in his hard-headedness and in his apparent inability to maintain his health, and one last gesture saved my life. Um, because at that point I was I was 24, and although I was working and I was gainfully employed, I had no real direction. I knew I wanted to follow my father's footsteps at some point, but I wanted to try other things first. Um, but I was just kind of floating through life and trying to figure it out. I was I was with the woman who became my wife. I had adopted her son. He was an infant when I adopted him. And now I had to figure out how to be a parent, and I didn't have one to talk to about it. Uh, my mother, my mother was an alcoholic most of my life. She finally got sober when I was like 23, 24 years old. But by that point, the ability to form a mother-son bond was well past. We were buddies. We could talk and exchange recipes type of thing, but she was never somebody. One, I would never go to her for parenting advice because although I loved her, she was, in my mind, a horrible parent to me and my brothers and my sister. So she just, you ask advice from people you want to emulate, not people who you think do a terrible job. My father, on the other hand, he had his faults. He was a heavy smoker. He enjoyed a drink. Um, but as far as being a parent, he was always there. He was always helpful. He always had the right advice, and he always, in my younger years, I was a little hot headed. I was a little extreme, and he understood me like nobody else in my life could. Um, so now I didn't have it. I didn't have him, um, and I barely had the strength to get through the loss. So now, fast forward, I'm at work. My blood pressure's skyrocketing. My pulses skyrocketing. I'm getting these dizzy, lightheaded spells, and there's a voice in the back of my head saying, "You idiot! You're gonna have a heart attack. If you don't do something, you're gonna have a heart attack." Now, I had heard about carnivore before that. Um, Jordan Peterson, which I'm sure you're familiar with, he did Joe Rogan's podcast, and it wasn't even really part of the podcast. It was just like a 2-second thing. But the way he talked about it, he was like, "Look, when I speak, he's a very educated man. He knows multiple things about fields that I couldn't even begin to dip my toes into."
Right.
But for him to come on and say, "Look, when I speak to you now, I'm speaking to you as an uninformed citizen. It's my experience." And I think he even went as far as to say, "I don't recommend this for everybody." You know, um, and he described the diet. He described, the weight loss, which was 7 pounds a month the first month, 7 pounds the second month, and 7 pounds every month after that. I mean, I remember verbatim. It hit me so hard.
I don't want to interrupt you, but same thing for me. I found Carnivore through Dante Frigno, but then I watched that same clip, the 777, and then you know what he also said. I could say the whole thing verbatim too. He also said, "And I'm off all my antidepressant medications, and I've been off them for over a year now."
Right, right.
So
And
sorry, I
every
didn't
day
want
it's
to.
getting better.
Right, right, yeah, that was a
Absolutely.
huge impact on me also.
Right. And then he started speaking about Michaela, his daughter,
Hmm.
and hearing her health journey. And I didn't know Michaela. I didn't know Jordan Peterson from a hole in the wall when he did the interview. And Michaela, I knew even less. I only learned about them from that Joe Rogan podcast. Thankfully. But although I know I needed to change at that point, this is before, long before I started the carnivore diet. It's probably 2 years before. But it put it in the back of my mind as a possibility. But I was still living off the old information. Cholesterol is bad. Red meat causes cancer. Red meat causes diabetes. You know, all the lies that we've all been told. The food pyramid. To me, I was being taught the food pyramid in second grade. You know what I mean? The cholesterol is bad. That's something my grandparents, my parents, everybody preached. My father didn't follow that, but he didn't do it right. He cooked with butter. He had the right ideas, but he still, he had the pastas and he had the this and that. He drank alcohol and he smoked cigarettes. You gotta those are dead end roads. You know what I mean? But I saw the thing with him, and it kind of stewed in the back of my mind. And then little by little, I started doing research, and I'm realizing that more and more people are doing this and getting healthier and healthier. But my concern is heart attack. And this is the first time I'm admitting this on a podcast. I'm not just doing this because it's your podcast. The real turning point for me, because my father died from congestive heart failure, I was looking for something that was going to prevent that. And nobody could give a definitive answer as far as, look, you could do all the research you want unless somebody goes through the experience. And I find them believable and it makes sense to me, then you'll never talk me into something. I don't care what the facts are. If it doesn't make sense in my mind, I'm just not going to do it. And I was actually researching. I said, you know what? I want to evade what happened to my father. So I looked up carnivore and heart disease. Can you guess whose videos popped up? Yeah, yours. And exactly. And your heart problems sounded more extreme than what my father had going on. I mean, I don't know his injection fraction. He didn't share that stuff with us, which I wish he did. Um, but you sounded like you were in an extreme enough situation. And the fact that you're standing, well, for all intents and purposes, standing in front of me, breathing and active and feeling great. And you could see like your before and after pictures. In the before pictures, you looked miserable. And now you look like you're glowing. You look like a picture of health. So that was one of the things that I was like, okay, at some point I have to do this. And then just by coincidence, I reached out to my brother one day and we're video chatting. And I'm looking at him. Now, my brother was always, he never put on weight like I did. He was always, 6 months out of the year, he'd be at the gym and he'd take 6 months off, put on a few pounds, then be back at the gym, but he was always in good shape. You could always see his musculature. You know what I mean? I'm talking to him and he's more slender than I've ever seen him. And when he's bending his arm, I could see the bicep come up. You know what I mean? Like little things. I'm like, Dave, you look incredible. Are you doing something different at the gym? He's like, man, I haven't been to the gym in months. I said, but you got to be doing something because I'm in my mind. I'm like, is he doing testosterone therapy? Is he doing like? There's got to be a difference. He's like, I've been meaning to talk to you about it. He goes, I'm doing carnivore. I was like, yeah, I heard about that. I literally said, that's that crazy meat diet, right? He said, yeah, dude. He said, listen, man, this thing is serious. I've been doing this thing for like a month. I feel incredible. He goes, the weight just fell off me. I eat until I'm full. I feel good. And I was like, my brother's most of my life, he was my idol. You know what I mean? He's 10 years older than me. I spent a lot of my teenage years hanging out with him. He kind of guided me along the way. So when he said that to me, I was like, all right, now I've seen Jordan Peterson talk about it. Multiple other people talk about it. I've seen Kerry Mann talk about the benefits that I want out of it, or at least to avoid what he went through. And now my brother has lost weight from it, and he's bragging about it more than he's ever told. Because we've done every diet known to man. If there was I don't know if you ever heard of the potato diet. You eat a potato for breakfast, a potato for lunch, and you eat a regular dinner. These are things we did trying to get our weight under control. Juice fasting. I would never do it again, but I actually enjoyed that one. Who doesn't like drinking juice? I mean, you know? So that was pardon the pun, that was the nail in the coffin for my diet. I decided that day that I have to do it. Although I didn't make the change that day because, financially I have to plan for a big change like that. So I guess like 3 or 4 weeks went by and I'm in the supermarket with my girlfriend. And my girlfriend is 5'3", she's 120 pounds. She maintains that weight, give or take 5 or 10 pounds. If she now I turned her on to carnivore. Anytime she puts on a few pounds, she jumps on carnivore for 30 days. She gets basically shredded. And then she goes back to, but she only eats once a day and she'll have a snack late at night. She's not a real big eater. And like once a month, she'll eat like nobody's ever fed her before. But other than that, you know, but we walk into a supermarket, and I don't know if you're familiar with Pepperidge Farms cookies.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the million varieties. Um, the picture on them looks just like the cookie inside. And I mean, I know they're not the healthiest thing on the planet now, but they are delicious. She stops and she's looking at the Pepperidge Farms cookies. And now the carnivore has been in my head now for years. And now for the last month, it's pretty much the primary thought. If I'm not thinking, I'm thinking about carnivore. So she's looking at these Pepperidge Farms cookies, and I'm foaming at the mouth. I want to eat the entire rack of cookies. And I said to her, in my mind, I'm like, I'm not going to use the word, but I'm like, F this. I said, Nicole, I can't do this. I'm going to look at the steaks. I can't look at these cookies anymore. I used a lot more colorful language, and I walk off. And I'm kind of like kicking rocks as I'm walking, and under my breath cursing that I want those cookies. And I get over to the meat department, and they have this like I'm very frugal. I have a lot of responsibilities. I have people I have to take care of. I have a child. He's 19 years old now. By the time he's 18, um, I I I I have a hard time spending money on myself, which I'm sure most parents have that same struggle. So I walk over to the meat department, and of course I see the ribeyes. I see all these steaks, but I didn't do any real research as far as what to eat. My research was um, health based, like what health symptoms are people seeing. I wasn't paying attention to the diet side of it. So I went over there blindly and I grabbed a 6 pack of steaks that were like $10. They were like this thick, and it was when I tell you there was no marbleization, there was no fat. I mean, they're still steaks, but for carnivore, they were the worst steaks you could pick. Fortunately, I had grabbed the roast beef with it, and took it home, and that's how I started the diet. I figured, you had to eat steak a day, so I have six. I don't think they were quarter-pound steaks, and it was hard. I mean, I'd love to say that it was easy, and I had a great time, and right out of the gate, it was great. It was horrible. I bought the wrong steaks. I had my energy level was okay because I still had, I'm sure, 40 pounds of carbs in my system. Um, but the headaches I got because I was also drinking. Well, all right. I'm getting off topic a little bit for a second. My eating habits pre-carnivore. The bag that my girlfriend would pack for me to take for lunch would be, and it's just lunch, two like homemade cheeseburgers, lettuce, tomato, onions, ketchup, the sesame seed bun, the whole 9 yards. Two of those, which is enough to fill an average person. A giant bag of popcorn, not the little single servings. The big bag at Bachman is actually kind of, they make a bigger bag. So the Bachman popcorn, I would bring two of the thick, like the king size Hershey bars, the ones that come in little sections. Two of those. I bring 1 or 2 packages of ring dings, which are like chocolate covered cream filled cakes. Veggie fries because I wanted to be healthy.
I'm
And
laughing because it sounds very similar to my former diet. I used to kill those veggie fries. Eat a whole bag of them too.
yeah, oh, absolutely. I never just ate a few of them. If I opened that bag, there was none left when I walked away. And I would sit down and in an hour and eat all that food. Oh, and a small Ziploc bag of homemade popcorn. And there was something else. Oh, diet soda. Again, I want to be healthy because
Yeah,
I'm diabetic.
yeah.
I would go to the dollar store by me for $1.25. You could get 3 liters of soda. During the course of a regular day, I would drink 9 liters of diet soda.
Wow.
Work, I would drink 3 liters, and then I would go. I would go to work. I would get there an hour early. I would eat before my shift because we're in the field. There's not a lot of places to eat. We're in the subways. I would eat for an hour before I go to work. Before I'd start work all night, and then we'd get back to our reporting location. I would go to the store and buy another foot long hero and a 20-ounce soda.
Yeah.
So, and that was before I went home. That was
See,
just,
that's pre-dinner dinner. I used to do that too.
yeah. And then I would go home and it would take me an hour and a half to get home. No, I was taking a train at this point. No, I was still driving. Take me an hour and a half to get home. And I would eat a full meal when I got home and then pass out. And I would sleep till probably 3 o'clock. And I would get up and I would eat another full meal. And then I would pass out and I would get up at like 5, 6 o'clock to start getting ready for work and then be packing the meal to work and then have snacks for in the car. I would stop to get gas and I would buy like a bag of combos or, Twizzlers or Reese's Pieces. Like this isn't a like once a month thing. This was every single day. So I mean, there's no misunderstanding how I got to 275 pounds.
Yeah.
The carb addiction was crazy. Um, it was insane. It was absolutely insane. Um, so I bought the steaks. I dealt with a headache that made me want to chop my head off for about 4 or 5 days because of the caffeine and the sugar withdrawals. And I say withdrawals very purposely. If you're listening to this podcast and you don't think that caffeine and sugar are drugs, try cutting them out. You cut them out, and then you look into withdrawals of any other drug in the market, and I promise you're seeing very similar symptoms. I actually saw a thing done about sugar, and they took somebody who had never done drugs, and they gave them meth or a meth derivative. I don't remember exactly what it was, and they watched what the brain did.
Yeah.
And then they were recovered from that. They gave them sugar, and they watched what the brain did. And the exact same spot in the brain, in the exact same fashion, lit up the exact same way.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying sugar is meth, but if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, you know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
Um, so that was that, and I went home, I started the diet, I did the steaks. Thankfully, I bought the roast beef, and what I did with that is I just cooked it. I left it in the fridge or on the counter, depending on how much I was going to attack it. And anytime I felt a craving, I would slice a couple of pieces of roast beef, throw it in my mouth, and it kind of got me through the first week. And in that week, I did more research, and then was able to buy the proper foods. Um, I went through the whole keto flu, which I would like to change that term because keto flu makes it sound like it's just your body adapting. It's a withdrawal. Your body's withdrawing from all the chemicals that you've been putting in your body. Um, it's I went to school to be a certified drug and alcohol counselor. I never went into the field, but I know my fair share about um, the effects that drugs have on the human body. I've never, me myself, I've never had a drug problem, but I learned all there is to learn about the field. And like I said before, if you're under the impression that sugar is not a drug, you really are mistaken. Um, so yeah, I started the carnivore diet. First week or two was rough. It was very rough. Um, I promised myself 90 days, and I'll tell you what I did. I still thought the diet was crazy. Everything about it was counterintuitive to everything I've been taught. And it, although your story, my brother's experience, seeing Ken Berry, Sean Baker, Anthony Chafee, seeing all these people, knowing that these gentlemen are far more intelligent, far more educated than I'll ever be, it still has to make sense to me. I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do this for 90 days. And when it fails, because I'm convinced it is, I'm going to make a video and I'm going to blow the roof off this thing. And I'm going to make $1 million arguing with everybody about the carnivore diet. Well, much to my horror, there's no $1 million. there's no, there's no blow the roof off video. Um, 90, I guess, yeah, just about 90 days later, um, I'm off all diabetes. Well, it's not 90 days now, 90 days then. I'm off all diabetes medication as per my doctor, who is not pro carnivore. Um, I went to the doctor a couple of days after I started the diet to get my blood work done because I wanted a baseline. Um, I told her what I was doing, and this is a practice I've been going to for 15 years. And she was against it. Oh, I'm concerned about cancer. I'm concerned about this. A heart attack, your father, your family history, this, that, and the other thing. I'm like, doc, I tried everything that you said to try. Not her specifically, but every doctor in that practice and my urologist. I tried everything that you guys told me to do, and it all failed. And I'm just getting sicker and sicker here. To give you an idea, besides the multiple surgeries, the diabetes, I have herniated discs in my back. When I asked the doctor who diagnosed me, I said, "How many herniated discs do I have?" He said, "You have multiple herniated discs." I said, "Well, how many?" He said, "Multiple." So I'm assuming there's quite a few. I never got a definitive answer on that. I had tendonitis in both elbows. I have arthritis in both feet. Now, this is, diagnosed. This isn't me saying, "Hey, my feet hurt. I must have arthritis." Um, I had headaches. My poor girlfriend, I would come home from work and she would have to rub my head for hours from the headaches I would have. I would like to blame it on caffeine, but I was drinking so much caffeine at that point that I don't know how it could have been, unless my blood pressure was through the roof. I guess it was. I had knots in my calves. Each calf, I would say, had like 15 or 20 knots that my girlfriend would have to rub out of my leg. She'd rub them until they disappeared, and it was extremely painful, just so I could function. And on top of that, I was taking 1,800 milligrams of ibuprofen twice a day, just so I can get through the day,
Mm.
so I could function, so I can go to work and do my task. Because of my back, my herniated discs, I couldn't do this motion, which, depending on, we pick different jobs during the course of the year. Depending on what job I pick, I might be handling a 40-pound wrench, and the whole motion is this, and now I couldn't do it, or handling heavy machinery or shoveling or whatever the case is. And it was really affecting my ability to do my job, much less my son is, from like the age of 12 to like 19 years old or 18 years old. I couldn't throw the football around with him. He played football through junior high school, through high school, and I could throw the football 5 times at him, and then my back hurt so bad, my tendonitis would flare up, and my feet would start to hurt. I had to, figure out a way to get out of it. Um, it was just a lot. There was a lot going on. I was in constant pain. If it wasn't one thing, it was another, but it was usually multiple pains at once. And the back pain was so bad. It was, if I did this, like anything like this, like it's amazing to me right now that I can do that. But like me and my son, we like to box. So doing this is the kind of, a move you do. And I would do it, and the pain would shoot around my ribs and it would stop me dead in my tracks. I couldn't do that with him anymore. Um, I did carnivore for 3 months, and not only was my diabetes cured, but everything, with the exception at that point of my back pain, was gone. No more headaches. No, I may still have arthritis in my feet, but it doesn't hurt. So if it doesn't hurt, does it matter? You know what I mean? The crippling part to me about arthritis is mobility and pain, and I don't have any mobility or pain issues anymore. The tendonitis is a repetitive motion. I still do plenty of repetitive motion. My job is repetitive motion, and I work on cars all the time. That's all repetitive motion. My elbows never hurt, and the pain used to shoot from my elbow into my finger, and my finger felt like it was broken. Um, it's been life changing across the board. Um, I'm down from my heaviest, which that wasn't carnivore. From my heaviest, I'm down 75 pounds.
Mm.
The first 15 pounds, I went from 275 to 260. Like I said before, my eating habits were horrible, but my diabetes had gotten so out of control that it didn't matter what I was eating. I was just losing weight. A friend of mine passed away a few years ago, and what I learned from him is he passed away from diabetes complications. when your diabetes really reaches the critical point, you start to lose weight. And that's what was going on. And I remember coming home and thinking, I ate more food than any human being should consume. And I'm 2 pounds lighter this week than I was last week.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't make sense. And I denied it, and I fought the internal battle going on in my head. I'm like, no, no, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. Um, but I was at the beginning of the end had started. Um, so I started carnivore like 260 pounds, and now I sit pretty comfortably at about 200 pounds. I could still lose a little bit more weight. I'm at the point now, which is a strange thing. Um, I'm not losing weight, but my body's still changing. I haven't, I'll be honest with you, I haven't lost weight probably since the 6 month mark. But I see pictures of myself and my body is drastically different. The way my clothes fit, the way I physically look. Like when I first lost the weight, I looked almost frail. Like everything was, my skin was my chest was hanging low, my posture was weird. Like I didn't look unhealthy, but I didn't look strong.
Right.
And I haven't lost much. Maybe I lost 4 or 5 pounds since then. But my muscle tone is drastically different. I'm not ripped by any means, but I have muscle tone now. I'm stronger than I was. I'm absolutely fast than I was. I'm 49 years old. This week I took a break, but last week I was doing 50-yard wind sprints. Are you familiar with wind sprints?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was doing 50-yard wind sprints at 49 years old after spending 10 years being 275 pounds. Yeah.
Wow. The
Um,
the
Go
the
ahead.
I was just gonna say if you were to get like a DEXA scan or something like that, you would be amazed at the progress you're making. I talk to so many people that feel like, oh, I'm not losing weight on carnivore anymore. And it's exactly like you said, you gain muscle, muscle's heavier. Your
Yeah.
bone density, people's bone density actually changes where your bones are more dense and they're heavier now. The whole structure, it's kind of crazy. It sounds like I'm overhyping carnivore a little bit, but like almost the whole structure of the body changes. And when you're not losing weight, your body is like drastically healing things.
Oh, it's incredible. And I purposely I didn't lift a weight. I did no exercise till about a month ago, maybe 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, the exercising hasn't changed that much more about me. The just I have a physical job. My job is physical. It's in high temperatures. It can be brutal at times. But I've been doing that job for 8 years. You know what I mean? And it never helped me before. But I'm on this high protein carnivore diet, and like I said, I'm not losing weight, but the changes are incredible. Like I'm still today. I was getting out of the shower. And I put on my pants. I didn't put my shirt on yet, and I was like, wow. Last time I put these pants on, my stomach would not hang over the belt, but you'd see like a little pudge right above the belt line. It's not like it was. I'm by no means where I hope to be someday, but I'm just letting it take its course. You know what I mean? The I've helped a lot of people get involved in this diet. I don't like to use the word coach because I'm not licensed or anything like that. I don't even know if there is a carnivore licensing at this point, but a lot of friends, a lot of people who've seen my story have reached out, and I've helped a lot of people. Um, the biggest problem I see is people rely on the scale.
Yeah.
I haven't touched the scale in 4 months, and I probably won't touch the scale for another 4 months. I look in the mirror and I look at my pictures and I see how I feel. You know, if I was 275 pounds and I felt like I feel right now, I'd be fine with it. I didn't do this to lose weight. Not
Yeah.
that it's not a great way to lose weight. I lost a ton of weight on it, but I did this to live. I don't want to leave my son like my father left me.
Right.
When I started to have dizzy spells and high blood pressure and high heart rate, my son was 18 years old. And in my mind, I'm like, I'm going to have a heart attack and I'm going to leave this poor kid behind. And I mean, his mother, he has a good mother. He's luckier than I was growing up. He has a very good mother. But sorry, um, he he, much like me and my father, I have the same relationship with him I had with my father. He can talk to me about anything. We discuss things that would make most parents hair curl, and we just have that comfort zone with each other. He talks to me about things that most kids would hide from their parents. I'm very lucky that my son is really, at his core, a good kid. I don't know if I had anything to do with that, but I'm very happy that is the way he is.
I'm sure
Um,
sure you did.
he's very laid back. He's very easygoing. He listens to me. He doesn't always hear me right away, but he always comes around. You know, um, and it's just I don't I want to play with my grandchildren.
Yeah,
I don't have any yet. Knock on wood. Um, I want to. When my son needs a babysitter because him and his wife want to go out to dinner, I want to be able to do that. I want to, if he's having trouble paying his bills, I want to be able to help him with his bills. I want to be able, if the bottom falls out of his life, and he needs a place to stay. I want to be that guy. You
right.
know, I had to figure it out. I had to get through life without that, without being able to say, "Hey, Dad, my wife wants to go see the new Batman movie. Can you watch the kids for a couple hours?" We had to either pay a babysitter or talk a friend into, watch the rambunctious kid for 3 hours. You know what I mean? So I don't want to rob my son of that. And thanks to in no small part you, um, Jordan Peterson, the doctors, Ken Berry, Sean Baker, Anthony Chafee, and my brother, and just my own little research. And that finally, after all the horrible health issues I went through, finally hitting a mark, almost dying in the hospital and then going home and not changing anything. That's crazy to me. You
Right.
know, what other than a severe addiction is going to do that to somebody?
Exactly. Yeah.
So
Hey,
I just,
I was
yeah,
gonna say, just to step back for a minute, when you were talking about, this isn't a weight loss diet. I just want to touch on that real quick because that is such an important thing. I I feel like it's almost insulting when people are like, "Oh, I don't need to do carnivore. I don't need to lose a couple of vanity pounds." Like they're treating it like Weight Watchers. I hope that comes across to people in this video that it's so much more than a temporary regimen to restrict some calories to lose some vanity pounds. It's like
right,
you were sick. You were horribly metabolically sick. I was sick. This is fixing that. You're healing that. And then as a byproduct of that, you'll go to your natural weight, whatever it may be, as a byproduct of that. But
absolutely,
that's what so many people, it drives me insane. I hear that from, like, I've got loved ones where I'll talk to them about this, and a lot of them have actually done it, which is great. Some of them haven't yet, and those are the ones who are like, I don't need to lose any weight. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I've reversed my congestive heart failure. You think this is
yeah,
just another Weight Watchers or something like
right,
that? And the other thing
well,
too you mentioned with the exercise, I think is critically important as well, because I was told my whole life, like, you're unhealthy, you're, again, overweight because you got to exercise more. I didn't lose a pound by exercising. I lost all of my weight before I ever exercised. And I realized afterwards that advice is so horrible to tell someone, again, who's metabolically sick, like you were and I was. You can barely get off the couch. Now go run, like go jog, like
right,
you have pneumonia. Go out and outrun your pneumonia. No, you heal your body first, and then you'll
yeah,
naturally want to exercise. You'll have the energy to want to exercise. But
right. Let me go run at 275 pounds. Why don't you save me the trouble and just hit me in the ankle with a baseball bat? Like,
exactly. Yeah,
it
well,
doesn't make
now
any.
I see people now too, and I'm not judging them. I feel bad because I see my former self in them, but I'll see someone like at the gym or outside, and you could tell they're not healthy, and they're riding the bike or they're running, and it's like good for them. They're trying, but it's so frustrating because I see my former self in them, and I know, okay, I just ran now. I can go have the pizza. I can go have I can go have the combos and the Twizzlers and the junk food.
Right,
I
right.
deserve it now.
Or the
They
the,
don't
the
realize it.
500-calorie protein shake.
Yeah. It's because they're misled to believe that they have to exercise in order to lose weight when it's 99% of it is your nutrition and changing your diet, and then you'll want to exercise after that. But the message is so broken and backwards. That was going to be one of the questions I had for you was, it you found incredible healing. You're inspiring other people. You're doing a YouTube channel now too, which is awesome. I love. I'll have a link in the description for that. But do you get mad at all? Like, you suffered incredibly. And in retrospect, a lot of those things probably wouldn't have happened if you were eating a proper human diet from the get-go. A lot of it's just greed run amok, big food, big pharma, big medicine. Their only incentive is to make more and more money. They don't care if you're sick. They don't care if you have another boil or another hospital visit or this or that. Do you get mad at all about that? I mean, there's nothing you could do about it. You just kind of got to move forward. But do you have any thoughts on the broken system?
It's infuriating on so many levels. Um, my father grew up in the era, and that you could look it up. You could see the commercials where they have doctors talking about how healthy smoking is.
Yeah,
That athletes should smoke; it opens up your lungs. Like, I don't know that that's the reason he started smoking, but I'm sure it didn't help. And
right.
ultimately, the smoking is what led to his heart disease. The doctor told him years before, either stop smoking or stop coming to my office because it's going to kill you. And he opted to stop going to the office because the doctor insulted him. But I think about, had this information, which they knew about. This isn't new information. They knew about this when my father was 15 years old. You know what I mean? This could have been a thing. They didn't call it carnivore, obviously, but in the 50s, when I think it was in the 50s, when the whole um, wheat-based thing became a thing, and the food pyramid and all that garbage became a real thing. That thing has killed more people than war.
Yeah,
Like, it's the loss in my family. I don't know how many types of cancers could have been avoided in my family if people were eating the proper human diet. I don't know how many family members. I have a sister that's sick in the hospital from complications from diabetes. She's been in the hospital for 6 months now. 6 months since January. No, December. She's been consistently hospitalized since December. I don't want to go into her personal medical history. It's not for me to share. But she's not in good shape. She's really struggling, and there's days where she doesn't know if she's coming home. Um, Now, she's so far. She's my older sister, so there's a level of hard headedness that comes with that. She Maybe now she'll make the change if she ever makes it home. But if I told you what they're feeding a diabetic in hospital, she's living off like cottage cheese, and they're giving her like um candies to control her blood sugar. I'm like, Chrissy, tell them to back off the insulin, and then they don't have to give you the freaking candy. And how about a piece of meat? When was the last time you had a piece of meat?
right.
Like, she had throat cancer, so she has some challenges. So I'm not saying it's completely the hospital. They have to work with what they're giving. But the my girlfriend's saying it back, she doesn't have any teeth. I wasn't gonna share that piece of information, but like, there's there's so many people that could have been helped, that could have been saved, or even prolonged their life. And then to think about everything I went through, and to think that there's these doctors aren't doing the research to find out what's truly healthy, or they're just so wrapped up in making their Mercedes payment and pleasing the drug companies and selling. I can't tell you how many times they put me on a GLP-1 before anybody knew what they were. I was on a GLP-1. And not because I asked for something weight loss. They're like, oh yeah, it'll help your diabetes and it might help you with your weight. I'm like, well, I don't care about the weight as long as my diabetes is under control. And this was before the GLP-1s. Ozempic was the one I took, was the hot button. Now I have friends that are jumping on this Ozempic train or a GLP-1 train. And I'm like, do you have any idea what this is doing to you? You're not losing healthy weight here.
Right.
You're losing muscle. And by the way, your heart's a muscle. You know what I mean? The whole thing infuriates me. It absolutely infuriates me. And every time I go to the doctor, with the exception of, there's I don't remember her name off the top of my head. I don't necessarily want to put her on blast because I might get her in trouble with her practice. She is completely on board with, not as far as carnivore, but understanding what food really does to your body. When I told her what I was doing, she's like, look, you are healthier than I've ever seen you. You're at pretty much the healthy weight. You excuse the expression. She said, you kick, I'll say it nicely, you kick diabetes butt. And your blood pressure, my blood pressure, by the way, is 117 over 76. My heart rate sits at about 60 to 70 beats a minute. Um, the last time I went there, she gave me a bracelet. She gave me a gift. It's a health blessing. because she was so impressed with how healthy I'd become after reading through my health records and seeing what my journey was like. Um, it's just it's wild. And like I said, just like you, I see people on the street. I tell my girlfriend all the time. I say, "Is it bad that I see somebody limping and I want to explain to them how they can get rid of that pain?" You know, or I see somebody with a bag of McDonald's in their hand. I want to tell them what that food is doing to them.
Yeah.
You know? Or you know, I can't even look in people's shopping carts anymore because I'm a people watcher. Everywhere I go, I look at people, and I see people buying these pre-cooked chicken nuggets that are cooked in seed oils and all these processed foods with a laundry list of chemicals I can't even pronounce. And like I said, and like you said, I'm not judging them.
Right.
That was me. You know, waking up every day in crippling pain, thinking, well, I'm just getting older.
Yeah.
Well, I'm 49 years old right now, and I work with guys that are a little older than me and guys that are much younger than me. And they come off of job sites, and sometimes they're complaining about their body pains and their aches and their back hurts. And I'm like, well, I'll take your word for it because I don't. I work. Let's say I work for like 5 hours straight doing a physical, heavy, disgusting job. While you're working your muscles, so you feel the soreness while you're working. And then I'm like, when I first started the diet, I was like, when I get off this job, I'm going to be sore. I get off the job site, I'd walk 10 steps and all my pain would fade away. I'm like, and then I'd wake up the next morning and nothing hurts. You know, I check this out. I don't know if you can see it. Like, can you see that scar right there?
Yeah.
I was ironing my clothes, and you can't tell, but there's a chunk missing. The iron went into my skin.
Oh.
It was, I don't know how many degrees that iron gets to, but I hit the point of the iron and it dug right in. And immediately it hurt. And then, like 35 seconds later, there was no pain. And like that was a blister that popped. I didn't even know it was a blister until it popped. And it hurt for about a minute, and then there was no pain. And I've heard you say you don't feel the effects of sunburn anymore.
Right.
I went to the beach 4 or 5 times this year. I got cooked, no pain. The first year I started carnivore, I tried to call you bluff. 3 hours on Tuesday at the pool, no sunblock, in the water the whole time, sun beating down on me, cloud free day. Came home. I had to go to work that night. Put on a hard hat. I was expecting my head to be on fire. I was almost purple. I was so red. No pain. I went back not the following day, the day after. I'm like, I'm going to prove this guy wrong. He's got to be wrong about the sunburn thing. And my girlfriend can attest to it. 3 or 4 more hours in the sun, another layer of sunburn. Not that I suggest doing that. I'm sure there's a bad side to that, but that's what I did. I haven't felt sunburn. I'll feel a tingle. You know, I'm aware that there's my skin is different than it was before, but it's not pain. It's more like like that going across my skin, or yeah, like a tightness.
Right.
But I don't. I just I'm like it's weird to say I don't have I don't know what pain is anymore. I don't like not that I don't know what pain is, but nothing hurts.
Right.
It
That's
hurts.
incredible. It's it's amazing. Your story's incredible too because man, you and I have a lot of similarities. That's nuts.
It,
I
it really-
Jordan Peterson was I learned about it from Dante Frigno, but Jordan Peterson was the one that sealed it for me on Joe Rogan because the other thing I was saying was what is this guy's incentive to go on Joe Rogan and tell people to only eat meat? It's only downside for him. Like he's huge. He's hugely influential. He could lose advertisers, partnerships, business partners. Get like, this is crazy. What are you doing talking about this? The only reason he would be doing that is if he knows it's actually healing and he wants to help people and it's that
right.
powerful. The other thing you said too was just kind of funny. Quite a few things, but you mentioned combos and Twizzlers. That used to be my go-to. I used to have the pre-dinner dinner before going home. I'd stop and get some fast food, and then I'd come home and eat dinner again. But the other thing that's crazy is just the trauma, man. The suffering that you've been through is incredible. I feel for you. I actually we were talking about too much information. There's never too much information. You mentioned with the boils and the surgery you had. I had surgery. It was actually on the top of my butt crack. It was kind of a reverse boil. It was a cyst. It was
Oh,
called a pilonidal cyst. But the way you were describing your surgery, I'm like, I feel for you, man, because it was a very similar procedure. They had to cut it open, lance it, and they had to leave it open to heal, and they had to pack it with gauze. and it sounds very similar. And it was the most. I've been through kidney stones. Like I've had all multiple surgeries, surgery in my eye, gallbladder. By far the most incredibly painful thing of my entire life was that surgery and the gauze, taking the
Right.
gauze out, and they leave it open to heal, which the same thing you said. I'd never heard that before. And in retrospect, I'm like, in this day and age, it just seems so barbaric. Like you would have an open wound. I think mine was 6 weeks, changing gauze and having that thing open to heal from the outside, from the inside out, instead of the other way around or whatever. But
It
incredibly painful. And then the thing is,
I equate it to bloodletting.
yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. The thing, I don't know what your thoughts are, but in retrospect, for mine, I had that surgery and then I had it 2 more times, similar to you, 3 times, because it came back. I kept doing the same thing like you. I kept doing the same thing. It kept coming back. In my head, though, I'm like, I have this thing because it's some genetic fluke. Like, we don't know. Now I'm like, that was 100% from my nutrition and the foods I was eating. You even hear now, like Dr. Ken Berry's talked about it, even just weird like skin tags, insulin
Mhm.
resistance. And it's like, I subsequently, after the fact, I've researched the pilonidal cyst, and I bet you if you do the same thing with the boil, I don't want to speak to that because I don't know, but the pilonidal cyst, it was inflammation. It's like you have chronic inflammation for long enough, and it's probably insulin resistance was another part of it, and inflammation. That's how you get that thing. It was had I been eating a proper human diet, never would have happened. I have no doubt I never would have had that surgery 3 times, let alone
Well,
all the other issues I had.
I had a boil the week I started carnivore. Uh, it 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 popped within the week. Because like I said, I knew how to take care of it, and that was uh I started the diet on April 17th in 2024. Figured 7 days from there, that was the last boil I ever had. Now,
Right.
mind you, I had boils consistently for 2 or 3 years before that point. So there's no doubt in my mind, had I been eating a proper human diet, not only would have I avoided diabetes, but multiple health issues. Not to mention how much sick time I lost at work and how much money I probably lost, or how many jobs that let me go because I couldn't perform at the level that I know I'm capable of.
Right.
It's insane. And my abilities have skyrocketed. When I tell you I can outwork pretty much anybody, it when I not even when I put my mind to it, my ability to work forever. I just never run out of steam. I never get fatigued. I can keep going forever.
That's one of the most incredible things too is uh I've interviewed hundreds of carnivores now for our documentary and just on YouTube, and that is the same. I hear that from everyone, whatever their success metric in life is, whether that's working harder like you, or just whatever decision making, it improves on every single person I talk to that does carnivore. And it sounds like we're overhyping carnivore, but then when you think about it, this makes perfect sense. You are no longer sick, you're no longer fatigued, you have energy, so you're able to make better decisions. How can you make a wise, smart, like I heard someone say this once, your life is a result of the decisions you make. And I'm like, that is some wisdom there, and that is the truth. And if you're in a brain fog with inflammation and exhaustion, you're not making wise, smart decisions. And then you
Right.
don't have the energy to execute on them anyhow. So it makes perfect sense if you're eating a proper human diet and now you no longer have brain fog, inflammation, and you have energy. You're making better, wiser decisions. Your life is going to be that much better. Whatever you do in life, you're going to be that much more successful. That was one of my big realizations with this whole thing. It's like our documentary is called Healing Humanity. It's like an audacious title. It has multiple meanings to it, but that's one of them too. It's like I really feel like the majority of humanity, they don't even they're a shadow of the human being they could be, because they have this brain fog and inflammation, and they're not making the proper decisions, and they don't have the energy to really live life to the fullest. That's like really the big thing with healing humanity. It's just like so many people are going to go through their whole lives never really living. It sounds like you now, you're like, you're really living, you're healed all this stuff right now, but now it's like, look out, like look 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, your
Right.
peers are going to have these mobility issues and arthritis and all these things, and they're going to keep them down, and you're just going to be keep going. It's just incredible.
Oh yeah, and the difference in myself, the difference in my relationship. My son actually a few years ago, because of the dietary choices, was diagnosed with fatty liver. COVID kind of caught him by surprise. Not that he had gotten COVID, but that's not what I'm talking about. When they shut the schools down, he was a football player. So he was eating high calories so he could work out and do what he had to do at school. And then COVID hit and everything just came to a screeching halt. Only his diet didn't change. So he packed on 30 or 40 pounds with COVID. Ultimately ended up with fatty liver, and he always had trouble getting that weight off. Um, he did a low calorie diet and got rid of the fatty liver because you just got to lose the weight. That's really the thing to that. But hunger always wins, and low calorie means you're not eating a lot of food. So ultimately, he put the weight back on, and although he never got went back to the doctor to find out if he had fatty liver again, I started to see the symptoms. And on top of that, he just what? He just didn't look healthy anymore. There was a point. He's taller than me. I'm 5'8". He's 5'9". He's probably 5'11", 6 foot. But he got up to like 255 pounds. But he was just carrying the weight bigger than I was. He was almost. I bought him for Christmas or his birthday. I bought him a sweatsuit that was 2X, and it looked horrible on him. It looked like it was hugging a tire. And I drew the line in the sand. I was like, dude, I've been talking to you about the weight. I've been talking to you, talking to you, talking to you. You're either going to do something about this. I'm going to have a conversation with your mother because me and his mother split custody. I said, I'm going to have a conversation with your mother. I'm going to bring you here. I'm going to lock the door, and you're going to eat what I eat until you get this weight off. And he was like, all right, I'll do it Monday. And Monday came, and he didn't do it. He called me up. He's like, Dad, I have a party to go to. I have a couple of things I got to do. Can I just do that? And I want to have I cook arroz con pollo. It's rice. I'm not of Latino descent, but friends of mine are, so I learned how to cook arroz con pollo, and he loved it. So he was like, when I come over the weekend, can you cook me arroz con pollo? That'll be my last unhealthy meal, and then I'll do this. So I made it for him. He started it, but what I did, I made a gigantic pot because now I'm twisting my evil mustache. You know what I mean? I said, here, I made a big pot. It's all yours. Eat as much as you want. And he watched me go through this whole diabetic thing, going to the hospital bed and crying by my side, the whole 9 yards. It was heartbreaking. So he eats 2 giant bowls of rice and beans with chicken. I wait 4 hours because I know the game. I said, how was your food? Good. I said, did you enjoy it? He said, yes. Did you get all you wanted? Yeah. Did you eat what you would normally? Yeah, Dad. I loved it. Thank you. I said, all right, come with me. After 4 hours, I took him in the bathroom. I got my diabetes kit out, and I checked his blood sugar. I don't remember the number. I think it was whatever it was right at just over the edge of being diabetic. So at this point, any doctor would have diagnosed him diabetic. I never got his A1C done. I just showed him the number. I said, congratulations, dude, you're diabetic. And the color went out of his face. I said, so now we could either do this together or you could live my life the way I lived it the last 10 years.
Hmm.
And he's not as strict as I would like him to be. He leans more towards Carnivore, and he has definitely more cheat days than most people. But he's also 19, so his body's a little more forgiving. But he's down 30 or 35 pounds.
Nice.
He looks 1,000 times better. His skin, his stature, his everything about him is better. And when he is eating 100%, he takes better care of himself. You know, he's 19. He showers pretty regularly, but he has times where he doesn't shower too regularly. And when he's eating healthy, I noticed he gets up in the morning, goes right in the shower. He shaves. He does his hair. He does his grooming routine. You know what I mean? Well, other times he may take a shower, but he'll be 5 o'clock shadow for 2 weeks. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm kind of meticulous about my appearance. So
Man, that is incredible. That is awesome. I'm so happy to hear that. My girls are pretty much all eating carnivore. One's a little bit more ketovore. My oldest daughter falls on and off, and she's the same age as your son. But I'm just thankful that they all have this as a tool in their toolbox because I did it, right? So if your son does it and he's doing pretty darn good, that's incredible. And if at least he has this in the toolbox for the rest of his life now too. God forbid he ever got full blown diabetes or depression or anything like that. But hey, like that alone has got to be worth it, right? Seeing your child find healing from your
absolutely.
example, incredible.
By the way, 3 weeks after I After I checked his blood sugar, he did carnivore for 3 weeks. I checked his blood sugar again. It was 90, which is pretty much perfect.
That's awesome. That's
So
incredible.
yeah,
You're
it's been a wild ride.
Yeah, for sure. We went over a little bit here, but this has been amazing hearing your story, man. It's incredible.
Thank
Can
you
you
so
talk
much.
just real quick as we wrap things up? Where can people find you to learn more about your story?
My YouTube channel is Lions Den, which is one word, Lionsden 4170. My name is Eben Marshall. If you want to look me up on Facebook, if you have any questions like that, it's my personal account. Feel free to reach out to me if you want to friend request me or just send me a private message. I'll gladly help you, anybody out that has any questions about how I got to where I'm at. That's pretty much my two primary contact sources. And you have my email address. If you want to put that in the notes, you can too.
Okay, I will have all of that in the notes, so make sure you go follow and share Eben's story. Also, it's incredible, man. Thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to tell the story.
Have a great day.
You too.